But let's talk about this Stormherd. KO, making some big plays over here, decided that he wanted to get in on the token action also. Hey guys, there's two great ways to support the channel. All links are in the description below. Welcome back everyone, playing some Polukranos Unchained today, and today's deck list comes to us from Patreon supporter Jeff. Let's take a look at this opener. If this at green? This at green, this would be an easy keep. Without green, Oh, that's tough. That is tough. Do we chance it? 35 lands in this deck. Any flip lands? Oh, that's not a flip land. One flip land in Balaged. So 36. I'm going to chance it. I know I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to chance it. We'll keep. Oh, we just need to find a single green, and then we are off to the races. Even, worst case scenario. If we find enough to get to War Room and we need to draw a little extra, it's not what I want to do, but we go first. We draw an Avenger of Zendikar, which is about the farthest thing from a land. Play the Swamp. Pass the turn. So one thing I noticed while taking a look at the deck list, and it's a little bit of a trend, so I'm playing Jeff's deck list today. I've played a number of games with Jeff over the past year or two, and it does seem like he gets stuck on mana a little bit more than is necessary, so I took a look at the ramp count in this deck, and it was around 7 or 8, which is a little low for my liking, and a little low for a deck that's, there were, we got 4 7 drops, 7 6 drops, 8 5, there's a fairly beefy top end here. This looks very similar to a lot of decks I run, and if I'm running a top end like this, which I often do, I'm probably going to be between like 12 to 15 pieces of ramp. So I do think he's probably going to want to add about 4 pieces to this deck. I added 1 card. I subbed out a Wormcoil Engine. Fun card, but at some point you just need to be able to make land drops and stuff. So, and I've noticed this with people's decks in the past. Like, Jun Panorama can find us a green. Love it. Let's go crack this Panorama. Not getting punished. Makes me so happy. Get the Forest. Never the biggest fan of the Panoramas. Oh, yeah. You gotta pay 1, and it comes in tapped. It's kind of rough. I mean, from a gameplay perspective, I think you can always just do a little bit better than a Panorama, even on a budget. That being said, I think they jam these in like a ton of Commander decks, so there is just something to say about having them lying around. If you're on Commander deck number 20 or something like that, right, you're not going to have all of the best land fetches available. But, for my money, even like a Terramorphic Expanse, I think is better just because you don't have to pay the 1, and, I mean, it still gets a basic of any type. You have 2 versions of Terramorphic Expanse, so you can run both of them, and even then, like, if I'm playing 2-color decks, because I play a lot of 2-color decks, a lot of Boros. In a 2-color deck, I probably won't run Terramorphic Expanse because there are enough come into play tap lands that make both colors, where the Terramorphic comes in tapped and only gets you a single color. So, I'll just run every version of Windscarred Crag or something like that, Stone Quarry, all those type of things. But for 3-color, it's a little different, right? There is some utility to being able to search this out, but again, it's not the biggest deal, but it can impact your early turns a little bit, or it can just put you off a turn from being able to do the thing that you're really trying to do, and that can always be frustrating. So man, that can lose you games too, right? Like, if I've had those games where you're just 1 mana short of making the big sequence of plays that you want to make every turn, and if that happens a number of turns in a row, someone probably beats you to that big sequence of plays. It's just that happens sometimes. Anyway, we cast the Nissa's Pilgrimage card that I absolutely love. In probably 2 and less color decks, running it in a 3-color deck is a little dicey unless it's just like heavily green. Not saying you can't make it work. Definitely wouldn't run it in 4 or 5. But anyway, yes. Ooh, that's a Monetary Mentor. Legit magic card right there. That's an Entomb for opponent. But anyway, the point I was trying to get to earlier is that I've seen a lot of people's deck lists over the years for a lot of different reasons, and the difference between a deck that performs well and a deck that gets stuck on mana a lot is sometimes as small as 4 cards. I remember I was working on someone's deck a number of years ago, and they were playing the Laughless Dragons deck, and we changed literally 4 cards in the deck. And we basically cut 2 high drops, we added 2 lands, we added 2 ramp pieces, and they went from saying, oh, I keep getting stuck while playing this, to it worked great. I cast all my dragons and I ran over the table. And it's crazy to think that in a 100-card deck that 4 cards can separate something that performs really well or something that gets stuck a decent amount of the time. It's a surprisingly fine margin. That's a Verazol. Oh man, I've lost a Verazol before. We should be careful with that one. It's gonna poke us for 2. Here's a Cryptovagadine. Can't remember if that one was ever fixed on Magic Online or not. It does make black mana naturally, which is good. Gives us some value to it. What are we doing right here? How does this thing work? We need to cast it for 4 mana, and then it comes in with 6 counters on it. It's not the worst idea I've ever heard. What's this thing do? Hostile Negotiations. 4 mana instant. Exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face-down pile, then exile the top 3 cards of another library in another face-down pile. Look at the cards in each pile, then turn one of the piles face up. An opponent chooses one of the piles, put that pile into your hand, the other into the graveyard. You lose 3 life. That is a lot of text. Kind of interesting, though. Interesting little choice card. I imagine it's decent. Sort of like a black take on a fact or fiction, almost. Doesn't seem awful, though. What are we doing right here? I would love to get... Can we go Rampant Growth? Let's get some more colored mana in. Let's get the Crypt in. Oh, that comes in tapped. Well, you know what? That being the case, I think I'm just going to activate the War Room during another turn. Just try to get a little bit of value going. I mean, we've already got a little going with Nissa's Pilgrimage, but I think an extra card draw here is going to be nice, too. Just kind of keep everything nice and smooth. I guess we could do this thing, too. This is an instant. Maybe we're doing this. Yeah, that's probably a better use of mana. Although this one's interesting in that, like, you know, later in a game you have a better idea of what you need, although I suppose your opponents have a good idea of what you need also. But that's an Augury Owl, one you don't see much of. I bought 2 boxes of M11, I think. I was trying to sell Prime Times. I believe I opened 0 Prime Times in those boxes, because for a brief period in time, like, Prime Time was so expensive that if you open one in a box of M11, you can just sell the Prime Time and, like, easily make money on the box. That didn't pan out for me, though, but I do have a lot of M11 cards, which isn't the worst thing ever. There's some, I wouldn't say they're staples in the strictest sense, but they are, like, there's a lot of very playable cards in M11, especially going back a number of years. You know, now, yeah, we've printed a whole bunch of, like, new powerful things. This thing replaces probably a number of, like, worse card draw options in black. But that being said, just some, like, solid playable stuff in M11. I thought it was a decent set overall. I think I cracked a Baneslayer, though. Is Baneslayer in M11? Can't remember. That's a Coffers for opponent. Yeah, those are always a problem. Opponent does flip into Crothis, Lord of the Deep. Yeah, the backside of that card's a little bit scary. The cloning gets out of hand quickly. That's Migration Path. You know what? I think I am just going to go with the War Room right here, because as good as the Hostile Negotiation looks, it's still so early that, like, we don't know what we need yet. So I feel like I want to wait till I have, like, some idea of, like, okay, this might be something that we need. Sort of like a tutor, almost. That's how I tend to play tutors a lot, especially, like, black tutors that can find anything. I try to wait with them. Just like, okay, we need the board wipe, or it's time to go get the thing that ends it, right? Like, any of that stuff, I'll try to wait. Like equipment tutors, I have a very solid game plan of what I'm doing. Of, you know, early we're getting Sword of the Animus, Dowsing Dagger, and Hearth and Home. Late we're getting, like, Feast and Famine and Sunforger. Got a really solid game plan on that. How many lands are we on? We'll be on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A little bit short of that Avenger, sadly, but enough to go Rampant Growth and our Commander, which seems solid. So cast our Commander, comes in as a 6/6. We will... Let's play the Labyrinth, get that into play in case of a wheel or something like that. Cast the Rampant Growth. Let's get... I think we're a little light on swamps here. We'll get a swamp. Yeah, that's a decent little turn. Got ourselves a 6/6 that can shoot things. We should take a read of this. It is Polukranos Unchained. 4 mana for a 0/0 that comes in with 6 counters. If it escapes, it comes in with 12 +1/+1 counters instead. If damage will be dealt to Polukranos while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it. Pay 3 to have it fight another creature, and then pay 6 to have it escape by exiling 6 other cards from your graveyard. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So with the Jund Panorama, he's basically just trying to get, like, fetches and trying to get lands into the graveyard. Makes sense. If you're not running all the expensive fetches, that's a thing that you can do. I'm still a fan of the Mirage fetches, honestly. I like that cycle a lot. Once upon a time, it was cheap. I don't know if it still is. I can't remember if they got reprinted. I think there's a few editions of them floating around. But because, importantly, the Mirage fetches find your dual lands. Anything with the land types on them, they can go get, which is really nice. I am in the weird position that in my paper decks, I have more dual lands than I have fetch lands, which is strange and probably not common amongst most Magic players. So for me, the Mirage fetch lands are great because I can find the 1 or 2 dual lands I have in each deck and pull them out nice and easy without spending, you know, an additional $100 on, like, 2 or 3 fetches or whatever they cost now. Oh yeah, look at that. Dominaria United Commander, Forgotten Realms Commander, Grasslands is like 20 cents. Beautiful. I think at one point they were getting up to like $3 or something because there was only 1 or 2 editions of them, and a lot of people recognized their utility. It is nice that there's no life sacrifice either, right? The coming into play tapped is a little rough, but the fact that like, if you're getting like a Sacred Foundry or something and you're bringing it in untapped off of Windswept Heath, right? That's 3 life. That stuff matters. How many games have you lost by like 1, 2, or 3, where someone has just enough? It happens, especially if you do it a couple times throughout a game, right? Oh god, that's a Sphinx of Lost Truths. Enters battlefield, draw 3 cards, then if it wasn't kicked, discard 3 cards. And it looks like it triggers 1,000,000 times. Oh, okay, I see what they did. So they cast that, they remove the counters from Verazol, which killed Verazol. But they get to copy the creature and the effect? Seems pretty good. Seems pretty good. Yeah, Verazol, the last time I saw it, just like it did Simic things. And Simic things are good. Plus, late in the game, it just gets big. If it hits you, it can kill you. Had it happen. There's a Hydra. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? When it attacks, double the number of counters on each creature you control. Yeah, oh man, Let's go Hydra first. Do we have a follow-up afterwards? Maybe we don't, but... let's get this Hydra into play. I know we could go straight for the Avenger, but god, that's so boring. It's just such a boring line of play. Cast the Colonian Hydra. We can play the Forest or the tap. Do we need to Beast Within anything this turn? Maybe, right? This is flipped. When this attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. Okay, it's unlikely that... we'll see. Yeah, we should leave up the Beast Within, I think. Yeah, we'll save the fetch also for the Avenger. That makes sense also. So, okay. Play the Forest. We've got a plan. What's this thing? Elminster out of Baldur's Gate. Kind of looks like Gandalf. 5 mana for 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Whenever you scry, the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is the number of cards looked at while scrying this way. Draw a card, then scry 2, exile top card of your library, create a number of tokens, can be your commander, does not have an ultimate. That's cool. So not having an ultimate does mean that like there is less pressure to attack that commander and prevent it from ulting, which is nice. DJ's got a lot of open mana over there. I don't know that I'm really looking to tempt fate with that, so I think we will just attack into the Planeswalker since KO doesn't have... Oh, we don't have Trample. KO does have good blocks, so probably just throw a token in front, which is fine, right? Those tokens are pretty strong off Monastery Mentor. I'm curious, how much does a Monastery Mentor cost these days? Could definitely use one for my Feather deck. Could probably use it for 1 or 2 other token decks. Cheapest one appears to be $6. That is a market improvement from the nearly $50 price tag it had a couple years ago. It's $6. That's worth picking up. Yeah, he blocks with the token. We lose a counter on a Polukranos. That all seems fine. Forgot we didn't have Trample. I was looking at the Hydra, which had Trample on it. Our commander does not. Preordain. This actually seems like a really fun deck. I built, so around this time, because I had so much M11, I built a fun little scry deck for a friend of mine. Who was kind of trying to get into Magic a little bit, and it was just fun, right? Kind of a blue-white control-y kind of thing, do everything at instant speed, scry a lot of Crystal Ball, Augury Owl type stuff. It was a neat little deck built out of like mostly commons and uncommons. Wasn't about to take down an FNM or anything, but it was just fun. So they scry, that triggers the Elminster. While that's happening, we'll take a look at the rest of the table. So in the middle, we've got DJ Wars piloting Runo Stromkirk. And they're already flipped onto the backside there. Got the old wall of text on Runo Stromkirk, which may have seen me do a few times already. I'm not going to read it because it's just a lot of words. But cool card, powerful card, does a lot of interesting things. Be scared when they flip it over. And finally, we've got Castle Orange piloting Verazol, the Split Current. We were chit-chatting a little bit before the game. Tim uses Magic Online for mostly draft, so this is going to be a pretty budget take on Verazol. He doesn't have like a lot of high-value stuff floating around, but with Simic, if you're on a budget, Simic is probably the way to go, right? Like, you have so much redundancy in everything, and you do the 2 most important things really, really well, which is ramp and card draw, and from there you can kind of figure everything else out, right? Like, some of the blue removal can be expensive depending on what you're talking about, but there's a lot of green fight spells that are very cheap that you can easily use to kind of fill out your removal suite. So yeah, if someone were starting up the game on a budget, I would probably point them towards Simic. Especially if they're like, if they're not sure what they want to do and they're just like, I want something that like has a chance against, better, much more expensive decks. Simic, good way to go. There's a fun thought too. I've talked about the Ashling game that I played at GP Vegas last year, and I think what made that game fun for everyone is that there were 3 very powerful blue decks at the table. It was AC, Amanatu, and the Scarab God. And they were all well-built decks. No one was really holding back with any of their builds. Like, they had most of the good stuff in there. So, and then there's me sitting there playing my Ashling deck, which at that point had had a few updates, but it definitely didn't have the updates that it has right now, just because I hadn't spent the time working on it at that point. I just kind of pulled it out and said, this will be fun. And I think what made that game memorable is that I was playing a deck that was definitely outclassed by the table, and through a long grind fest. I went down to 3 life at one point, and then later, after exploding an Ashling with lifelink, went up to like 150. Was able to eke out the win, and opponent shook my hand after that game. It was a long, well-played, hard-fought game, and, there is something about the underdog winning that I think makes games memorable, and, if by some odd chance Tim can pull out a win today with super budget Simic, I'm sure that'll mean a lot to him and be very memorable. So that's always a thing to think about. There are definitely people who just want to run the strongest thing all the time, but it's like, if you're that much stronger than the rest of the table, like, does a win really even matter, right? There is something about having to earn your win that may be lost on the newer generation of Commander players. I don't know, maybe I'm just an old crusty Magic player. I came from a time of Magic where things were hard to do. Like, they didn't put the setup and the payoff all in the same card, right? You needed, like, at least 1 or 2 other cards to also be able to do the thing. And if someone shot one, then you're standing there with this piece of crap that's useless by itself. And that's the era of Magic that I grew up in. That's a Gyruda. Oh, yeah. Not thrilled about that. At least it'll put some stuff into our graveyard, though. We do need to get our graveyard stocked up here. I do think we're going to need to start fighting some stuff. They get themselves a Sphinx of Foresight, so perhaps a Sphinx tribal thing over here? Oh, that's KO Sphinx. Never mind. It's Scries, right? But we get a Sir Conrad into the graveyard. We could pull that out with Stitch Together at some point. I have a foil Stitch Together that is, like, super banged up, but it's a nice-looking card. I imagine if it was in good shape, it'd probably be worth a little bit of money. Holy crap, foil Stitch Together, $25. Where'd that thing run off to? Gotta go find that. It looks like it has very few foil printings. I think just 1. Because it's mostly in Commander products, and Commander products, only the Commanders are foil. Yep, Verazol coming back to play. Seems good. I think Monastery Mentor is kind of a problem, too. Although, I guess we have to pay to fight? Ugh. I think we're going to Beast Within that Gyruda, because that just doesn't seem like... Although, man, it's got to be the Commander. Beast Within the Gyruda, maybe we fight the Commander. Beast Within the Gyruda. What do we actually need to do in this one? Return target creature from a graveyard hand. Threshold. Goes to the battlefield instead. Oh, yeah, that one's pretty solid. We're past Threshold now. Golgari Rot Farm. Probably also a good time for the Avenger. Do we have a place we can sneak? Oh, yeah, this thing will get bigger. Yeah, this thing will definitely get bigger when... Yeah, let's send that into DJ. And double the number of counters on our creatures. Seems good. Oh, crap, we were supposed to do the Avenger thing first. Whoops. Yep, I knew I had a plan there. Whoops-a-daisy. Yeah, this seems really good in this deck. And now we're up to a 10-10, and I feel much more comfortable fighting stuff. So what I'm going to do right here, do we go for the Rot Farm first? Maybe we go for the Rot Farm first. Yeah, let's go for the Rot Farm first, because I think it's more... do we just cast the Avenger? So it's really a question of, like, how quick do we want this game to go? Do we removal check the table? Let's removal check the table. Was thinking about sitting around trying to, like, fight stuff and play with our instant speed stuff and do all that, which could certainly be interesting, but we do have this Avenger sitting here. We'll just put our opponents to the test, see if they have some removal. Here's the Avenger tokens. Play the Rot Farm, Avenger trigger, pick up a land, pick up a forest, use the ability. I think what was most annoying about this card is that, like, it was printed in a time where other creatures just weren't this good. Going back 6 to 10 years, this was just, like, the most common finisher that you'd see in green. I mean, you'd see Craterhoof a lot, too, but Just every green deck was running Avenger because it was just better than everything else going. And with the speed of the format being slower back then, like, 7 mana was no big deal at all. And just, people played much differently back then. Decks were built differently. Avenger did a lot of work, and I lost many, many games to it. What I do find frustrating is that, like, mono white token production has gotten a little better. None of it is really on the same scale as Avenger of Zendikar because, this is one of those cards, it is kind of the setup and the payoff. Like, it makes the tokens, and then it also makes them bigger by playing lands, which in a green deck is essentially free, right? Yeah, late in the game you might run out of lands, but green has so much card draw now that, like, you probably have a land drop to make. Yeah, so maybe that was part of it, right? Because this was printed in a time where cards didn't have their own setup and payoff built. That's a Stormherd built into them, and in that sense, it felt kind of out of place, right? Like it just felt much better than everything else happening. So definitely a source of some frustration in the past. But let's talk about this Stormherd. KO making some big plays over here. Decided that he wanted to get in on the token action also, and Monastery Mentor continuing to trigger also, which is the thing. So, like, if we untap with this board state, I'm definitely going to start fighting some stuff, because Monastery Mentor is starting to become a problem. Definitely nervous about this thing. Verazol beat you in the late game. Holy crap, that's a lot of tokens, and they're all flying. Yeah, well, you know what? We're going to have a little battle on our hands here, is what I think is going to happen. Unless someone wants to drop a board wipe. Say, tip of the cap to KO. Stormherd is a sweet Magic card. Sadly, you just don't get to play it that much. Like, man, if this thing was an instant, oh, it'd be so good. The problem is it just, one, it's very expensive, and two, like, everyone gets a chance to respond at sorcery speed. If someone has a board wipe, they're going to play that board wipe. A really crazy thing I saw one time, this is a long time ago, probably before Commander. Was it Commander? I don't remember. Could have been Extended Two-Headed Giant. That was my casual format of choice before Commander. And someone played a Stormherd and a Coat of Arms. I think they were all 27/27s or something like that, flying. I can't remember how that one ended. I have to imagine I lost that game. That game was probably 12 years ago. Definitely stuck out in my mind as an interesting play, though. Made me remember Stormherd. Opponent gets to scry one on their upkeep. That's a Runescar Demon. Did they get the board wipe? Or are they getting the board wipe? It is difficult to say. Like, in some sense, you kind of have to be, right? KO doesn't currently have enough damage to kill all of us, but he could probably kill, like, one player at a time. We could get trample onto our tokens somehow. Like, we might be able to force enough blocks to, like, cut down the amount of tokens that he has. He's got a lot of tokens. In some sense, getting a Sir Conrad is not... Does Sir Conrad just get us killed? That's a question. Maybe it's time for that hostile negotiations. Like, maybe we need to start digging. Curious to see what Jeff has for board wipes in this deck. One Damnation. Massacre Worm. Oh, yeah. The Massacre Worm means one dead KO. That looks like about it, is all I'm seeing, though. 2 is a little light. That is a little light for my liking on board wipes. Joint Exploration. Scry 2, then draw a card if it was kicked. Put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. Yeah. Seems legit. Got a 1 in 76 on that Massacre Worm. Maybe slightly higher if we play the hostile negotiations. Massacre Worm still packs a punch. I might even argue that it's probably better than it was 10 years ago, because creatures were bigger 10 years ago, right? There was a lot of Eldrazi and stuff running around. The game just went longer and later, so consequently people played bigger creatures that don't get eaten up by Massacre Worm. There were still elf decks and goblin decks and stuff like that, but... and definitely hosed a bunch of those with Massacre Worms over the years. But yeah, like, creatures have gotten smaller and more efficient. And those creatures look yummy to a Massacre Worm. And that's a swamp. That's not what we were hoping on right there. Sacrifice another creature, draw a card, and gain a life, you say. So we made 38 tokens. That might be relevant. We only have so much mana to our name. So we have a couple choices about plays that we can make. I'm not in love with, like, many of them. This thing becoming a 16 trample, like, I'd probably sacrifice this to have him eat a bunch of tokens. Yeah, that's not the worst idea I've ever heard. Let's play the Evolving Wilds, Avenger, crack the Evolving Wilds, looks like a lot of black sources in hand, we'll get a Swamp. 2 Avenger triggers. These are 3/3s. If we attack with all of them, they become 6/7s. That's gotta be good enough to eat some blockers, I would say. And you can't take all of them. The question is, do we Sir Conrad first, right? So if we Sir Conrad, in theory there could be a lot of damage. However, Sir Conrad might change how he plays the situation, because at that point he would probably make the minimal amount of blocks necessary to like not take an insane amount of damage, but to also trigger Conrad the least amount of times possible. Is it just damage? This one doesn't, no life gain on this one? No life gain on that one. Let's just go for it and hope it works out. We'll see what happens. I don't know, like, there is a world in which we could hold this back and, like, maybe he plays differently, and my main goal right now is just to, like, eat a bunch of tokens, and this Conrad play might be actually working against that a little bit. There's 1 damage to everyone. I mean, I think we just go for it. Big attack into KO, pull back the Avenger. Don't want that one to die. Colonian Hydra, gonna double the number of counters on stuff. So good. So good. Man, if I could get this in my Ashling deck, that'd be incredible. Let's see what KO wants to do. Wow, our commander's a 2020 now? That's insane. There is something to say about, like, you know, if we cast a Crater Hoof or something, we could just win the game from this spot. But part of me likes it when creatures get tangled up in combat and a lot of them die like this. I don't know, it's just a part of the game that I like. Like, yeah, if we played an overrun, that would just kill him. That's efficient for winning the game. But it's not as much fun as watching someone squirm, trying to figure out blocks, and watching like 100 creatures die. I find that much more enjoyable. Honestly, I just need to build a lore deck and just put some big monster out there and make everything block it. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, KO's just going blocks with everything. So it looks like the Sir Conrad is going to get a lot done here unless someone has some removal beforehand. Oh, I think he's going to try and kill the Hydra. You know what? That's fine, right? That's still 16 or 17 damage off of the Conrad triggers, assuming this holds up. Oh god, we're gonna have to count. Here's an interesting thought while KO's lining up blocks here. The just go for it mentality versus the play smart and conservative mentality. The just go for it mentality works when no one has interaction in hand. And just the way Magic Online is and the way people build decks on Magic Online, that seems to work out a lot more for me on Magic Online than it does in paper. In paper, people tend to have a lot more interaction, so just going for it means you get blown out, at least some amount of the time. I'm curious to see how many tokens are blocking here. So 1, 2... He's blocking with like 17 or 18 tokens. I'm not going to fight 2 of them to try and save the thing. Doesn't seem worth it mana-wise. Oh, crap. Here comes the removal. Yep. That's going to happen. That is disappointing. I mean, it has to happen, right? Everyone, you know, that's probably 20 or more damage to everyone. KO still has 18 tokens left. That is way more than I thought he would have. Now what? Here's a question. Did DJ tutor for a board wipe with this Runescarred Demon? With our board state and the Storm Herd, like, I have to imagine that he did. You know what, though? There's a ton of things in play. Let's just recast the Conrad right here. Because in a way, that almost shuts off the board wipe. Nope, we could have tapped that mana differently. I don't know if they fix this, and I'm nervous to try. How many black creatures in our graveyard? Oh, we don't have enough anyway. KO said we've chosen the path of war, which means we're probably going to die. If he has any sort of pump effect, that will get us killed. Unless someone else wants to intervene, which I doubt they do. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, oh god, it gives everything prowess. Jesus. Yep, that's going to be a problem. That is going to be a problem. Let's find out how many he can cast. Even one. One turns him into 2/2s, and 2/2s is big enough to kill us. I mean, what's crazy is I think KO only took 1 damage. Maybe he took 0 damage. Oh, no, he took 1 from Conrad coming into play. Yeah, KO took literal no damage from our giant attack. He hasn't cast anything yet. Instant speed stuff's still a problem. Yeah, there's all of them. All the flyers. Let's get down to the praying. No blocks. Everything's flying. Oh, I think he passed. I think we're good. Down to 17. I really thought we were going to die after he cast Strong Arm Monk, one that wasn't really on my radar. But you know what seems interesting for a token deck? Maybe it's a little pricey at 5, like a 5-mana 3/3, but when you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. As I'm looking at it, that's like a bad Gold Knight Crusader, is what I'm thinking. Like, if you're looking for Gold Knight Crusader number 2, you know, might be a reasonable option. It's not going to be probably as good. Now, you also have Cathar's Crusade, which is, like, better than both of them. But Cathar's Crusade does get shot a lot. So, if you're looking for copy number 3, perhaps this is something you take a look at. KO says to me, now in the words of Draco, you can either continue this to its final conclusion, or you can listen to my proposal. Let's see if that board wipe happens right here. I mean, it's kind of tricky if it does, because of the Conrad. It's a go for the throat. Disappointing. Conrad down. Yeah, a little attack into KO over there. Love it. How about us not being the target after dropping an Avenger of Zendikar? Team Sphinx keeping Conrad off the field? Yep. KO wants a truce for 2 turns. You got it. 2 turns is a long time, though. I don't really know. We're getting low on options. I think it is probably time for this hostile negotiations. We don't have that many creatures in grave for the Izoni, although I guess we have these things that we can sacrifice. Although those are 6/7s. Do you really want to sacrifice 6/7s? Oh god, did he just Teferi's protect himself? Jesus. It's turn 8. We can't do anything about KO until turn 10. Well, what I think we need to do is just gear up for what's probably going to be our eventual showdown with KO. In some sense, I don't think killing our opponents here makes a lot of sense, because we need them to duke it out with KO. Maybe that wasn't the best deal for us. But in the sense that they're all flyers, I don't really know what other options we had. We just were so soft to flying right now. Perhaps Gravity Well is a very interesting card. And for green decks like this that are heavily ground-based, maybe you want to think about a Gravity Well. You know, especially if you're playing against like me, because I love a flyer. I've run lots of flying in all of my decks, as much as humanly possible. Oh god, that's more Runescar demons. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. It's not great, but at least we burn the Teferi's. I've got a whole video I'm working on about Teferi's protection and other stuff like that. And, you know, the key to a Teferi's protection, or like not getting beat by a Teferi's protection, is not letting them get to the point where if they cast it, they will untap and win the game. So from that standpoint, the mistake was made by no one casting a board wipe the previous turn when I'm fairly sure he was tapped out. There's someone coming at us? Oh, it was a 3/3 coming at us. I guess we just blocked the 3/3. Hope our thing doesn't die. 17 is getting a little low on life. Don't want to be messing around with that too much. What's going to get weird about this truce is that, like, one person gets a crack at the other before the other does. We weren't explicit about the terms of when exactly that is. There's a Buried Alive. Seems good. Honestly, since he's running Avenger and Izoni, maybe you think about an Essence Warden in this deck. Card just gains you a lot of life. Like, it's so innocuous, but, you know, if you gain 10, 15, 20 life with that thing before it goes down, that is not a bad spot to be. Because, yeah, our life total's bleeding now. I don't know if we have a way to really get any life back. And so there's a lot of flying on this board. We are not... There's actually almost exclusively flying on this board. Got the Stormherd tokens. We got 2 Runescar demons, plus Runo, plus the Sphinx. 2 more Sphinxes over here. Sphinges, I guess that is. And Verazol does not have flying, but... It's Simic. You run the Temple, and the Temple will give it flying and make it huge. Stitched together, what do we got? Oh god. Oh god, it's a Stormtide Leviathan. We're boned now. So, I think I was talking to Revelin's Light about this the other day. Oh, and there's a Wonder in the graveyard? Yeah, so now everything they have is flying? Great. Stormtide Leviathan has been around the format for quite a while, like probably a decade at least. And it shows up occasionally. Even back in the day, it wasn't like super common. Oh, that might be good. Who's got the I'm on a boat deck? Is that Jeff? Or is it someone else? I can't remember now. Someone's got the I'm on a boat deck. This has boats in it. This could be a finisher for that deck. Strength of the Strength of the Tajaru. Kicked 1 time. X equals 5. Those are going to get giant. And we're going to double it up. Yep. Was that in my Calamax deck? I can't remember. I need to build that Calamax deck. That thing was fun. Sit there with the Stegosaurus running over people eating things. There's a world in which he attacks us with that 13. Could put us to 1 in the air, which would not be great. The problem is that he's like wide open to everything else if he does that, so maybe he doesn't. If he's sitting on an Aetherize, maybe he's fine. Though, would we have seen an Aetherize? I don't know. All I know is we got to figure some things out, because we are wide open to a lot of stuff. You know what? We can fight the Stormtide Leviathan. That's not the worst idea I've ever heard. Yeah, it might be time to start thinking about that fight ability. Where's it going? It's going into DJ. Thank God. Thank God. And this is going to put him pretty low. Tombstone Stairwell, you say? Spicy card. On the reserve list. I have a couple of them. Traded one, sadly, for a couple dollars before. I think its high point was like 30. I think it's trickling back down a bit now, but did not get $30 worth of value for it, but... is a cool card that shows up from time to time nonetheless. Opponent's got maybe about 2 creatures in there. That's not terrible. I think we've got 2 or 3 creatures. I don't know that we're on Tombstone Stairwell yet. Maybe we are. How do these things work? Nah, it's got cumulative upkeep. I don't know if I'm in for the upkeep yet. there is that whole bit. So each player makes a 2/2 with haste for each creature card in their graveyard at their upkeep at the beginning of each end step, or if it leaves the battlefield, destroy all tokens created with Tombstone. So you get them for a turn with haste, and then they go away. Let's play this forest. I'm not convinced that I want to cast Izoni right here. Like, I want to cast Izoni, but I'm also thinking about leaving up mana to fight stuff with Polukranos. I'm also thinking about this thing. All right, so there's a chance that the turn we're taking is too passive, but I don't know that it makes sense for us to be aggressive right here. Like, I'm rolling the dice a little bit to see if opponents will kill each other for a little bit while we can figure some things out. Now, if they just turn and come at us, then that's a problem. We'll probably just die. But, you know, we're not increasing our board threat at all. And from opponent's point of view, we can't attack right now. Now, if they're smart, they'll figure out that we can just fight this thing anytime we want and regain the ability to attack. And yeah, this is an interesting board. This is the 0 board wipe game, so, you know, the second anyone lays anything big down, it just stays, and whoever gets biggest is probably going to win. In this case, KO seems to be winning on that front with the flyers that now all have prowess. In his case, he's going wide more so than he's going big, but he's going very wide with a lot of flyers. Draw 3 cards, trigger all the prowess. Yep, it's not a bad little card. You spend 3 blue mana, scry 3? Yeah, that's solid. That is solid. When does the scry happen? Does it happen after the draw? Because before the draw would be fantastic, but afterwards, still not awful. Well, you know what one of the problems with this is? One of the problems with this is that everyone else gets the creatures before you do. So, be careful with that. Does that mean these things have double prowess, essentially? Yeah, I think it does. I think it does. Opt. Yep. Scry 1. They're all 3/3s. Leonin Light Scribe. Wow. Another instance of prowess, essentially. I'm guessing he just drew that one, otherwise he probably plays it before the other stuff. I'm not sure that you play that right. I mean, unless he has another follow-up play to really put... No, okay. I may have held that one, honestly, because, like, I guess there's 2 ways to think about it. There is the someone definitely needs to wipe the board school of thought. Then there's also the no one's wiped the board yet, and this has already needed to happen for a couple turns, so, you know, they have to draw it off the top, otherwise it's not happening. Decides to send a lethal attack into DJ, but holds back on Castle. Actually, just out of curiosity, how many tokens is this? Looks like about 8 or 9. So fogging 1 or 2 of them isn't gonna save DJ. And in some sense, I kind of want this thing to go down. Yeah, he goes down -6. We could have fought 2 of them. I don't know that that's necessarily worth it. Teleportation circle. Yep. You know what? Yeah, okay, I think I have a plan now. So, I think we gotta fight down some of KO's stuff. In particular, the things that give stuff prowess, of which there are about 3 creatures. What's this thing do? Target player gains X life where X is the greatest... Oh, and makes it bigger? Wait, do they fight? It says fight. I don't know why it says fight. It doesn't appear to be fighting anything. Very confused. Oh, they can have it fight. That it chose... I don't think they chose to have it fight. I'm so confused. Oh, maybe, yeah, they are doing the fighting. Okay. I don't think the card was displaying the right modes. Might have been a visual bug. Yeah, they fight our Avenger. That makes sense. Strong Arm Monk goes down. That definitely needed to happen. Tim goes up to 61 life. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. That is good because... Oh, man. That means KO has to use a lot of attacks to try and take him out now. Let's see what Tim's thinking here. So he has still, what, about 18 tokens or so? Stormherd tokens. If he gave them... He's got 7 cards in hand. Holy crap. So if he gave them... If they all turned into 3/3s, that's what? 51, 54, something like that. If they turn into 4/4s, that would become lethal. He goes no attacks. Yeah, thinking defensive. If you saw an attack from him right there, that means that he would probably have some sort of protection spell. Aetherize or something. Evacuation. Let's do some stuff at the end step here. So here's the conundrum. If we kill KO's Leonin Light Scribe, he probably doesn't have enough to actually kill Tim. But on the other hand, that might become a problem for us later. So maybe let's fight the Monastery Mentor. Just so he's not like continuously spitting out ground tokens. KO said, just remember, I love to settle things and pick up the wreckage. Yep, that's scary. He's only got 2 mana up currently. I think the next play is to cast this Hostile Negotiations. Let's give this to read again because it's got a lot of text on it. Exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face-down pile. Then exile the top 3 cards of your library in another face-down pile. Look at the cards in each pile. Then turn one of the piles up, put that one into your hand and the other one into the graveyard, lose 3 life. Ooh. Ooh, alright. Which one do we turn face up? Fiend Artisan could win us the game, but if we show him this, like, really bad one with... Ooh, Brawn is actually not the worst thing. Brawn is trample, is what Brawn is. So I think let's show pile 1. We'll choose KO. Wait, the other ones just go to the graveyard? Yeah. So if he chooses pile 1, Brawn goes straight to the graveyard. How about that? We'll draw with the War Room while we've got some open mana here. Digging for a Massacre Worm. Shadow Spear is a magic card. Shadow Spear gains us life, which I kind of like. Play a Swamp, play the Shadow Spear, equip the Shadow Spear, go to combat, swing into Tim. This won't be lethal. Just make him squirm a little. Just trying to gain some life. Opponent goes no blocks. Love it. That's actually what I was hoping for. Just going to take their 18 commander damage. We'll gain our 18 life. And things are going to get really interesting. Up to 30. Oh, I feel so much more healthier already. Let's play this Bloodfast. We should probably play the Fiend Artisan. Play the Fiend Artisan. Gives us enough for one fight. And that fight could be relevant because it can gain us more life. I think I'm good like that. I think I'm going to hold the mana up and just pass like that. Opponent said, I'd love to take 18 commander damage. KO said, at least it isn't 21. Yeah, I'm just trying to borrow some life. Mystic Sanctuary. Get back the Stormherd. Tell me he's going to get back the Stormherd. Yes, he's getting back the Stormherd. Oh, that'll make things complicated. That's going to make things really complicated. Maybe it won't. If we survive, then we just get Massacre Worm. Let's read this thing again. You just pay X. Yeah. Yeah, no, Massacre Worm should clean it up super quickly. He makes even more tokens. What would be unfortunate is if Tim, like, etherized him or something, because really want to get this Massacre Worm play now. Seems like KO's got, like, a big X spell or something. Finale of Revelation. Draw 11. Oh, God, it's freaking out. Please don't crash. Please don't crash. I've already had a game crash this week. Effects is 10 or more. Is shuffle your graveyard in your library, draw X cards, untap 5 lands, no max hand size. So he gets to untap 5 lands. Oh, yeah, he can cast all the stuff with that. He said, I can spot you on the just borrowing some life. Echo of Eons. Oh, God. I mean, I guess that's not the worst thing. No, we lose the Brawn. Yeah, losing the... Now I think we're definitely on the Massacre Worm plan. Although, this is interesting because Tim's going to get a fresh 7, and if Tim's got interaction, KO may not be able to kill him. There's a Runescar Demon in case this all doesn't work out. And Sir Conrad. KO sends a big attack. I don't know if it's lethal, though. Maybe thinking that if Tim survives, then he's going to block 2 of them. Yeah, I don't think that's going to kill him. That's probably only about 30 damage. He survives at 19. KO going real easy on Tim. Again, he's playing a very budget build, so that makes sense, right? I was having a discussion with someone on Twitter about removal usage and, like, when to hold back. And really, it's a situation of, like, reading the room, right? If someone is basically working with, like, draft chaff, then... you know, maybe you let up on them a little bit. If they're dropping staples left and right, sure, just to go all out, right? Blow up everything you need to. Go wild, but... yeah. Augury Owl coming back, scrying 3. Yep. Seems good. We still do have trample from the Shadow Spear, which is nice. Forgot about that. Tim's got some instant speed, I think. Oh, Strength of the Tajaru is back. Oh, dear God. What instant speed? I'm just going to let it happen. We can fog one. Might be in trouble against the other. It's going to be out of fight range for us, which is concerning. I know we could fight one beforehand. We'll just let it happen. Again, reading the room. He's been trying to get into the game, you know, the way the rest of us have, so. He does have a bunch of big flying creatures now, though, and that is concerning. Very concerning. We can get rid of 1. So we can fog 1. We can get rid of another with casualties. It's not a terrible start. This sorcery speed? Ah, that's sorcery speed. Man, imagine an instant speed Massacre Worm. That would be glorious. Scavenger Grounds? Yep. Oh, we don't have the mana if we went Sir Conrad before the Massacre Worm. I don't think we have the mana. That's a Hedonist Climb. That'll make you lose. That will make you lose. Doesn't give trample, does it? No, just flying. Flying and huge. Be on 13 mana this turn. It'll take 7 to get the Massacre Worm. Oh, we do have enough for Massacre Worm, Sir Conrad. He could kill us if he wanted to. Let's see how he's feeling about that. Sends a big one over to KO. Doesn't have trample, so he'll just block with 1. Yeah, needs to get the trample going in that deck. Yeah, basically just a Brawn, right? Toss a Brawn into the graveyard and you're good to go. There's a lot of ways to get trample in green. Yep, the very sad 1/1 block of a 29/31. Here's the problem. If we kill KO, I don't actually know how we're getting through this. Oh, wait, this Sir Conrad. This Sir Conrad handles it. So just to double check, 7 to get the Massacre Worm, plus 5 to get that is 12. Leaves us with 1 mana left over. Well, let's, you know what we should do? We should actually fight KO's thing. Let's fight this thing just in case he has a free spell or something. That is the smart play. It also gains us a bunch more life. Up to 48. We'll draw a card. Hostile Negotiations. Already coming back to us. The last one was pretty good, honestly, because like it puts them to the graveyard, so, you know, depending on how things go, yeah, you can get some stuff into the graveyard that you want to get there. Anyway, let's play this Tainted Wood. Let's use this Fiend Artisan, paying X6. Might need that Labyrinth. Oh, wait. Oh, nope. Wrong order. We got to do this in the right order. Gotta do this in the right order. Almost messed the whole thing up. There's Sir Conrad. Oh, we don't have enough to move this thing. Wish we did. Because if we put it on Conrad, we'd gain a lot more life. A lot more life. The commander's still a problem. And I just tapped the maze. That probably wasn't the best idea. This needs to work, otherwise we die. You know what? I like those stakes. Make things interesting. We'll go 1 extra just in case. We don't really have anything to do with the mana. So, yeah. Sacrifice another creature. Sacrifice a token. Triggers a Sir Conrad. Get the old Massacre Worm. Massacre Worm ETB. Let's see how things go. If Tim can bounce the Sir Conrad again, we die. He does not. That is a lot of triggers. Oh, God. Oh, God. This is going to crash or time out. Okay, there it goes. We got them all on the stack. Game hasn't crashed yet, thankfully. There's all the Massacre Worm triggers. Curious to see how low KO goes. I don't know. He already left. I don't know if it'll affect his life total or not. It's going to make his thing giant. I don't know if he's just trying to F8 or what. Oh, I think it's just super laggy. There it goes. No, we didn't get to see KO's life total. Bummer. I imagine he probably goes to like -30, -40, somewhere around there, without counting everything up. But, yeah, it turns out Sir Conrad is a hell of a Magic card. So is Massacre Worm. Now, Massacre Worm is much more situational. Sir Conrad will beat you most of the time if it stays in play. Massacre Worm is only good in certain settings, but when it's good, it's really good. It's like game-winningly good. So, as far as this deck, fun little commander. It's interesting. I do think that it's like maybe a little overcosted on that fighting ability. Wouldn't say no to a Heartstone to bring down that activation cost a little bit. As we talked about in the open, a little more mana ramp for a deck with this type of mana curve. For a deck with this mana curve, I would be in the 12 to 15 pieces of mana ramp category. And again, I'd probably cut some things from the like 5 to 7 drop region just to kind of smooth things out. Get those extra ramp pieces in. Maybe a little light on board wipes also. Even if it's not necessarily a board wipe, like I think a Fog could go a really long way. Is Obscuring Haze expensive? I have no idea. Probably is. Free spell. But Obscuring Haze would be very solid. Regular Fog is fine. Constant Mists is very good. Just to like not get blown out to flyers. Gravity Well is very good against flyers. Maybe something to think about. A lot of tokens in this deck. Wouldn't say no to an Essence Warden, although Shadow Spear did do a very nice job of gaining us life back. I didn't see that one initially. If Polukranos has any size at all, the ability to fight gains you a lot of life very quickly, so that's actually a pretty cool little synergy, like that one. So if it were my deck, I'd probably cut like a creature or two for ramp, and then I might just like kind of mess with things. Green and black have a lot of removal in creature form, so you can still keep that creature count high while kind of checking all the other boxes. You have a lot of ramp creatures as well. That's all stuff you can kind of do. But overall, I think it performed pretty well, and a level that like I can be happy with, and I think Jeff could be happy with, so that's all definitely good. I am thinking about the fact that there's like, it does seem like there's a little bit of a token sub-theme going on in here, and like maybe that's something to play around with a little bit more. Haven't thought about it super deeply, but there is also the consideration that like maybe we're doing too many things. Maybe we're trying to do the go tall and go wide. Now, Avenger of Zendikar is just good, right? Like, it just, no way around it. So do you focus it in a more or less token direction? I don't know. Question to answer. But before we go, I just want to mention the awesome Stormherd plays from KO. Like, he was the threat at the table, and he was holding back a little bit on people. Really did some cool stuff with that deck, and I definitely appreciate it. So, good showing from KO. But with that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel, vote on which decks I play next, or if you want to get some good games of Spell Table, be sure to check out my Patreon at the link below.